John O'Keefe was a single parent of 2 children he adopted when his sister and her husband tragically died within 2 months of one another. He was also a Boston police officer. John was dating Karen Reed for a couple of years when tragedy struck. After a night of bar hopping in downtown Canton, Massachusetts, John was found dead on the front lawn of another officer's home who was hosting an after-hours party. Prosecutors say Karen ran him over after a heated argument fueled by jealousy and a soured relationship. But the defense says he was killed inside the home, and the homeowners, along with local and state police, conspired to frame Karen Reed. There is no witness to the death of John O'Keefe, but there is some forensic evidence. Evidence investigators say they found at the scene and on Karen Reed's car. What story does the forensic evidence tell? We'll bring in our own expert to take a look as we continue our investigation into the tragic death of Boston police officer John O'Keefe. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. You know, let's go back in time a little bit right now. Big trial here on Court TV, the case against Alec Murdaugh. Think about that case and what happened and how that case was proven. First of all, there were no eyewitnesses to the murders. There was no one there. There was no one who said, oh yeah, I saw him do it. I saw it happen. Did not happen in that case. Alec Murdaugh was there alone with the victims, no one else there. Yes, they used some cell phone videos to place him there and other forensic evidence, but the bottom line was nobody saw that crime happen. Now, let's talk about the alleged murder of John O'Keefe by Karen Reed. There are no eyewitnesses to this alleged murder, which is a little more surprising because there are people inside the house, people outside the house, people driving up to drop people off, people getting in cars and driving away, people looking out the windows, looking out the front door. But nobody saw it. Nobody saw it, so there's no eyewitness to this alleged murder that prosecutors are trying to prosecute. Now, we know Alec Murdaugh was found guilty. How? Because the story was told with the forensics in that case. All of that evidence was put together masterfully. And you remember it happening. It was the star witness, Dr. Kenny Kinsey, who did it for us. He got up there, he explained how all the pieces fit together and what it meant. So despite the fact that there was no eyewitness to the murder, there was someone who could explain everything there and paint the picture for us, but more importantly, paint the picture for the jury of what happened. So, what story do the forensics tell in this case of Karen Reed? From the broken tail light to everything else that has been found, because no one saw it happen. No one. So now the forensics need to tell a story. And what exactly is that story? That's what we're diving into tonight on this program. And by the way, I mentioned Dr. Kenny Kinsey. He's going to join us tonight in just a little bit. But first, we've got to get to the courthouse. Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson joining us live from Dedham, Massachusetts, where all of this is happening. You know, a lot of these days have been fascinating, learning more about the people, the relationships, and everything else. But, you know, we were at a point, I was like, well, when are we getting to the actual evidence? Because I haven't seen it yet. And today was one of those days where we're talking about physical evidence. So let's start, Matt, about...
Well, Vinny...
No, let's start talking about what was found at the scene, right? At the scene of the alleged murder where they believe this all happened.
Right, and the prosecution, Vinny, is hoping that this is part of their smoking gun in this case as they begin connecting the dots. Well, today was all about that key evidence that you were talking about, and also forensics. We're finally getting into that part of the state's case in chief, including more pieces of what appear to be red taillight from the SUV found at 34 Fairview, along with some pieces of clear glass that could be from a drinking glass, and also the missing sneaker. And the person on the stand today was Kevin O'Hara from Massachusetts State Police, talking about that, collecting this during another search. They were using a shovel, a snow shovel, and also a rake. Here's what they found.
Found multiple pieces of red and clear taillight.
And where were they in relation to sort of the grid or the area that you had set up?
They were on the street in between the flagpole and the fire hydrant.
And sir, in addition to the pieces of red and clear plastic taillight that you uncovered, you know approximately how many pieces of that you were able to locate on that day?
I believe maybe 6 or 7 pieces.
And how big or how small, or did they range in size as far as the pieces that you located?
There was 3 larger pieces, 2 red, 1 clear, and then a couple of smaller pieces.
In addition to the pieces of red and clear plastic taillight that were uncovered during the search process, what, if any, other items of interest were located?
We found a sneaker.
And where was that sneaker located in reference to the scene in your search efforts and in reference to the pieces of clear and red plastic?
It was same location. Generally, it was in between the flagpole and the fire hydrant. The sneaker was flush up against the curb and it was upside down. I think we had found 1 piece of taillight prior to the sneaker, and then after we found the sneaker, we found a few more additional pieces of taillight. Close to the curb, as we started digging originally, the snowdrift, the snowpack was pretty solid from where the plow had kind of cleared to. So once we were able to move through that, we started getting into fresh, undisturbed snow, started moving through that, which was a lot easier to move at that point. And all of the items we found were close to the curb.
And so my question also, sir, is sort of how deep within the snow that you were digging was each of those items?
They were all found at ground level.
Found at ground level, and we want to show you on an image that we put together in front of 34 Fairview. So this is a bird's eye view, and it shows you red plastic piece number 1, red plastic piece number 2. It also shows you the sneaker. And where is it? Well, it's all in the same area where John O'Keefe's body was discovered. But this was underneath the snow in another search that they did. And remember, Vinny, this case is also unique because the jury did a jury view. I mean, you and I have both been there. We've seen how close everything is. But this jury is remembering that with this testimony today.
This is powerful. Now you're getting into the forensic, the physical evidence in the case that relates directly to their theory of how John O'Keefe died. Okay, so that's at the scene. What evidence did they get from the alleged murder weapon, I guess, which is Karen Reed's Lexus?
Right, you know, and there was another key witness that took the stand today, a forensic scientist with the department here in Massachusetts State Police, and that was Maureen Hartnett. And she was a key witness today because she was talking about what was collected off the car. Remember, the SUV was transported to the Sally Port over at Canton PD, and what was collected off that car was really interesting, including a human hair, but no blood. Here's what she had to say on the stand today.
There was a dent in the trunk door, there were scratches on the rear bumper, and there was a broken taillight. The damage to the dent, the rear door was in this area, the broken taillight was here, and then there were some scratches on the rear bumper as well. I observed an apparent hair on the rear quarter panel about here, and I also noted some pieces of glass on the rear bumper.
And there was a point in time today where Judge Cannoni told the prosecutors we're not admitting any more evidence because there were so many photos and so many pieces of evidence that was put in front of the jury today, including a lot of pictures about Karen Reed's SUV and what police said that they took during their investigation. Pictures of the hair, and defense attorneys were questioning whether or not the hair looked like it had moved in picture 1 versus picture 2. There was also a picture, a real close-up of the broken taillight, and the jury was looking at that very closely today. And then there was one of the bumper that appeared to have clear pieces of glass on it. And prosecutors, they haven't connected the dots yet, but they're trying to say that those could be pieces of glass from maybe that broken cocktail glass that was shown to the jury in week 1. And we're now in week 6, Vinny.
Literally putting pieces of the case together is what they're trying to do, as right now we're looking at that broken cocktail glass that was found. Well, this is such a huge day because as a prosecutor, you got to prove the case. Well, you know, we met everybody at the bars. We did all that. Now, finally, we're at the crime scene and looking at the alleged murder weapon. Let's talk about John O'Keefe and his clothing. How about the clothing?
That was a big moment in that courtroom here behind me today, and this first day back after a long weekend for this jury, seeing key pieces of evidence, which was the clothing that was cut off of his body as he was trying to be resuscitated and his life saved. This police officer of 16 years, John O'Keefe. So he was wearing an orange T-shirt, and he was also wearing a gray hoodie that was over it. We've seen that in the surveillance video. So in these photos that were shown to the jury, you can see where it was cut off of his body for those life-saving measures, but you also see stains. You see dirt and what appears to be maybe possibly blood. You're not quite sure when you're looking at it. And then there are several either cuts or scrapes or something in the right of his shirt, in one of the sleeves at least, and there are 9 punctures. And the witness on the stand, she couldn't explain how they got there, and the defense was really driving home that she couldn't explain it, and she's the forensic expert in all of this. But she also went into more details about how the DNA sample took place, because she took 2 cotton swabs and she rubbed it over both of those pieces of clothing. And remember, we've already heard testimony that it was no dog DNA found on those items of clothing, but pig DNA was. So I'm sure we'll hear more about that.
How about Karen Reed? Any reaction from her today?
Right. So as we're steaming forward, sometimes very slowly on this trial, it's a big question as to when the defense is going to start their case. So her attorneys, Alan Jackson tells me, as he was walking down the stairs today, I said, when do you think that you're going to start putting up witnesses? And he said, maybe in about 2 weeks. The state has a little bit to go and we have some dark days. And then I leaned over and I looked at Karen Reed and I asked her if she's going to take the stand. Here's what she told me. How you holding up, Karen? Week 6.
Well, Matt, yeah.
Have you given it any more thought? Are we going to get to see you testify? Tell your story?
If I have to, I will. It's up to the big guys.
Stay strong, Karen.
So it's not a no just yet. She's thinking about it. She's taking the advice of her attorneys. And also, you heard in the distance someone yelling, stay strong. Those people came here from Europe. They were here from Manchester, England today, specifically for this case to support Karen Reed. They watch it on Court TV. And it's just a growing number of people here at the courthouse, Vinny.
It really is unreal, the reach of this case and how it's growing and growing each week. Matt Johnson in the middle of it all in Dedham. Thank you, sir. All right, I promise. Let me bring in my next guest. You remember him from the Alec Murdaugh trial, crime scene expert, Dr. Kenneth Kinsey. All right, great to see you. I've got a lot of work for you tonight, Dr. Kinsey. Let's begin. I want to go through some of the photos from the scene, and then group by group kind of go through the significance, and then you could put everything together for us at the end. But let's start first with this large red piece of plastic, which is found near the flagpole. We see it from different distances. Obviously, all the way to the screen right is the closest shot of it. Apparently, they had dug it out, so it wasn't lying on top of the snow when they found it. So this is significant when you talk about the tail light. Also, we've got a take pictures of the clear plastic that was found in the snow. The clear plastic, if you look, you can see it's got kind of ridges on the top of it on the screen to the left. And these are different pieces that are found. I would believe more parts of the clear part of the tail light. And then we've got one more of the red plastic tail light found in the snow. Let's take a look at that. We've got that. So let me begin there, Dr. Kinsey. Your thoughts about the tail light, the pieces found in the snow at the scene, body impact, and this, I feel like a body impact wouldn't break a tail light because, you know, some bodies are soft. I know John O'Keefe's a big guy. What are your thoughts about what it would take and what that means, the way the tail light was found?
It doesn't take a lot of pressure to break that tail lens. As we've mentioned in other episodes, I'm starting to see some things now that I kind of expected. We had the analyst today mention that the smaller pieces made up a bigger piece that was identified as coming from that tail lens. So I don't believe it's beyond possibility. I've broken them before. Trying to remove them. So I don't think it takes a lot of force to break it. But the photography here, you're showing a general photograph and you work all the way into a close-up photograph. That's what I would expect. But I would also caution any biological or DNA evidence from this lens. You got to be working with either new tools or sanitized tools. That's a big deal when you're collecting something potentially a source of DNA. But I was at least pleased to see that the analyst testified to putting it together. I think she described it as putting pieces of a puzzle together, and that's basically what it is in this case.
Okay, now another mystery was uncovered today, which was the sneaker found in the snow, because we know John O'Keefe, we've heard all the testimony that he was only wearing one shoe. Well, the second shoe was found today. Let's take a look at where it's found. Up against the curb, and it was described as being buried underneath. The snow plows had come through, had packed the hard snow in. They broke through that and then found softer snow and uncovered the shoe. It's upside down. I don't know if it was moved by the snow plow, but tell me from your perspective the significance of finding one of the victim's shoes up against the curb, close to the area where his body was found.
Well, Vinny, if that curve was involved, you know, many times in a vehicle versus pedestrian accident, not always, but many times the victim is going to lose a shoe or both shoes. And having that physical barrier there, that cement barrier, the curve, I think that's a possible source that could have caused that shoe to come off, or the ejectment of that shoe.
So, 0 to 10, how big of a piece of evidence would you say that is in trying to determine if someone was struck by a car?
Not as big as the other evidence we've mentioned, the tail light, and certainly I know we'll get into it, but the injuries. But and you definitely can't put your case behind the location of that shoe. As you mentioned, you know, it pushed by the snow plow, could have been moved by first responders before, you know, or during life-saving attempts. So you can't put a lot into it. But if you didn't find it, I believe that would be a game changer. So, you know, we're slowly putting in those little pieces of the puzzle.
All right, more pieces. Let's take a look now at Karen Reed's SUV. We've got a picture of the actual broken tail light. This is the clearest picture that we've seen so far. And you can see how much of it has been broken. Now, there's two other extremely significant parts of the back of the vehicle. One, glass on the rear bumper. You have to look closely here, folks, and it's on the right-hand side, one towards the top, one towards the middle, but to the right of the little piece of paper you see in the middle, there appear to be two pieces of glass. I believe the theory is these could be pieces of a cocktail glass that was found broken at the scene. We know John O'Keefe had a cocktail glass in his hand at some point leaving the bar. final piece. Oh, here we go. Here you can see John O'Keefe with the cocktail glass as he is exiting the bar. There it is, and he's got it in his hands. And now they're saying potentially that the pieces that are on the bumper, lying flat on the bumper after the car has been removed and brought back to the police station. One more thing, hair found on the rear panel. This one, you have to look where that piece of tape is. It is close to there. I have to squint my eyes and look in, but I think I see it. I think I see it. Your analysis of the significance, if that hair is then connected to John O'Keefe, if those pieces of glass are connected to his cocktail glass, what does all this tell you? What is the story it's telling you?
Well, I think it adds, Vinny, to the totality. As you know, good defense attorneys are going to do, they're going to attack the evidence. So all of it together is strong, but then you can chip off a little piece of every piece of this evidence. You can chip off a little piece of it because you know how they're going to attack it. They're going to attack the hair. They're going to say that the hair couldn't stick to the vehicle. Could it have? I don't know. Seeing vehicle strikes with pedestrians before, I have seen hair. I've seen some without hair. Deer versus vehicle, I've seen some hair. I've seen some without hair. I would definitely attack that single hair, just one hair that is stuck, you know, during a blizzard, is stuck to that vehicle. So it can also be attacked. And the glass, I don't believe they could collect enough fragments of a cocktail glass to put them back together like they could the plastic tail lens, because that glass is, they found very little of it. So maybe the physical components of the glass, I don't know, maybe they will get into that with the analysis. You know, I've always said I'm a police that played a forensic scientist, but real forensic scientists, they ought to be able to test that glass and at least come up with a comparison. And if you know it's an outlier, it's way out there, then of course you could exclude that. But I don't know. It's a lot of pieces still missing with the glass part. I feel a little bit stronger with the tail lens.
All right, finally, let's get to the clothing that John O'Keefe was wearing. We begin with his sweatshirt, and obviously a lot has been made of his arm, and that is the picture all the way to the right. All of those arrows are pointing to punctures or holes in the right arm of that shirt. The shirt is cut down the middle because of emergency workers, and we see either dirt/blood on the sweatshirt as well. Then you've got the shirt he was wearing underneath, which was this orange shirt. Again there, you see some of the reddish-brownish stains. And then the jeans that he was wearing were also shown as well to this jury. We know, and we've seen that picture of the right arm many times with all the scratches on it. What do you see? What story do the clothes tell you?
Vinny, we talked about this, leading up to it, and I think everyone was in suspense how law enforcement would explain away those injuries. It just hasn't done it for me yet. They may be holding something back, and we'll watch a little bit more tomorrow. But this is the one game changer for me. If you can't explain the damage to that garment and you can't explain those injuries, and you've got every element you believe was involved in this scene, I see it as a hurdle. And I definitely see it as, potentially something that the defense is really going to attack when it's their turn. And we'll just have to see who can explain it.
Dr. Kinsey, we only have like 5 seconds left here, but 0 to 10, the evidence today, how compelling to you is it for the prosecution, 0 to 10?
6.5.
6.5. Dr. Kenneth Kinsey, thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Vinny.
All right. When we come back, folks, we'll bring in our trial insiders, plus coming up next hour. The investigation into the Long Island serial killer began as a search for a missing woman named Shannon Gilbert, a 23-year-old woman who disappeared near Gilgo Beach in 2010. Then 13 years later, an arrest for the murders of the Gilgo Four, but not for the murder of Shannon Gilbert. And now the accused killer is scheduled to go back to court, reportedly for the murder of a fifth victim. Why now? What has changed? And could it be Shannon Gilbert who called 911 the night she disappeared?
There's somebody after me.
In 2011, Karen Swift returned home from a Halloween party
and was never seen alive again.
Weeks later, her body was found near a cemetery.
The case then went cold for over a decade.
Now, her estranged husband faces trial for her murder.
The couple was going through a bitter breakup.
But did divorce lead David Swift to kill?
The Karen Swift murder trial. Live coverage weekday mornings only on Court TV.
This is the flagpole in front of the house. As you move south, this appears to be one of the pieces of taillight that we recovered. And you can see right here to the left of the taillight, that is the molding of a shovel. So this piece of taillight was picked up with one of the team members' shovels, and as they overturned it, you can see the taillight came up as they were searching through the area. And this is kind of the markings of the shovel itself.
It's one of those make it or break it days for prosecutors. Now you're bringing in the actual physical evidence of the alleged crime, and you're talking about the alleged murder weapon, the car. Let's bring in our insiders. Joining me tonight, Karen Reed supporter, creator of the Justice for John O'Keefe and Karen Reed Facebook page. Nick Rocco is with us. Also joining us, criminal defense attorney, college instructor, and author Peter Ellikin. And finally, the YouTuber behind the Yellow Cottage Tales channel, Kevin Lenahan. Great to see everyone tonight. All right, Nick, let me start with you. The tail light. The tail light. These pieces are found all over the place. If it didn't happen there, how did they get there?
Well, we know how they got there. Am I delayed here? Can you hear me?
I got you 100%.
All right, so we know how the taillight got there. It was planted there, and we know this because at 6 in the morning when John was found, the Canton Police Department arrived on scene, and there was 4 inches of snow on the ground, and they had their leaf blower blowing all this light snow away, and enough to find the cocktail glass, but they couldn't find that big chunk of taillight or a shoe at 6 in the morning with only 4 inches of snow on the ground. And then 12 hours later, after they seized Karen's vehicle, is when they all of a sudden found all of this evidence to say that, oh, look, this is from her taillight. They found clear pieces, red pieces, and a size 12 black shoe that they could not find with 4 inches of snow. So right here, how could you not find it when there's only this much snow on the ground? And they found a cocktail glass in this situation as well. So to me, you would find it right now, right? And when the state police are shoveling all this snow out and they're finding red taillight, how come they didn't find any more blood? Because don't forget, John lost half of his blood in his body. So how come they didn't find any more red snow as they're turning all this snow over? There's no blood to be found. Yes, they found taillight, but only after the fact of her vehicle being seized by the Mass State Police. And then the size 12 shoe being found at the curb, they would have found that 4 inches of snow. The shoe is bigger than 4 inches. So explain to me how they didn't find that early in the morning, but they found it later on with 1.5 feet of snow on the ground.
Let's take a listen to Kevin O'Hara, lieutenant from the Massachusetts State Police, talking about where that black sneaker was found.
Be a little difficult to see from a distance, but right here, this is the sneaker that we recovered.
And as far as the airing and the curbing that you indicated that the sneaker was recovered in relation to, where is that?
It's flush up against the curb.
Again, I'm sorry, using the laser.
Oh, I apologize, sir. Right here, this would be the curbing right here. The sneaker was completely buried. It wasn't until we started digging through the snow that we found the sneaker.
Peter Ellikin, is the jury going to buy that the shoe was buried underneath the snow?
Yeah, I'm going to sort of repeat what was just kind of said, that none of this was found earlier. You had these police officers, first responders, very little bit of snow. And they even got the leaf blower to try to clear the area. They didn't find anything. And then, of course, this fits right into the conspiracy theory that the defense has, that this was after they towed the car away. Suddenly, hours and hours later, suddenly there's 40-something pieces, and you can see it from the street. The state troopers who did the investigation, who testified today, mentioned they got there 12 hours afterwards. The area was not secured at all. Any member of the public, anybody could have been walking through there for many hours. So I don't think this is, we're waiting to hear whether these forensics would be kind of a game changer for the case, and it would really trump and knock out the conspiracy theory by the defense, but it didn't do anything really. The defense still is holding to their theory, I think, that none of this was found until hours and hours and hours later, and therefore credibility, and you can drive a truck through the reasonable doubt here.
Kevin Lenahan, what are your thoughts about what was shown to this jury today, and finally uncovering where they say they found the sneaker and the tail light and the clear tail light as well? I mean, the tail light sneaker, big pieces of evidence, crucial pieces of evidence in this case.
I don't know what my esteemed friends here are listening to, but much of the defense theory was destroyed today by Lieutenant O'Malley. So why didn't the Canton police find this earlier? He has just proved or testified to what I've always said. It was found 3 feet deep underneath a plowed snowbank, and even described the older snowbank that they had to break through to get it, because that's how long it was down there. The Canton police never took a shovel to that crime scene, so they were never going to find that. The other part of the conspiracy theory that was destroyed today was O'Malley testified that he arrived before 5 p.m. and it was another trooper already there, and the entire team was there by 7:41, and some of them had already began their work at that point. The SUV didn't arrive to the Sally Port until, it didn't go into the Sally Port until 5:36. It arrived, say, a few minutes earlier than that. There was no time to pry pieces off that SUV in the Sally Port, race to the scene, and bury them in front of all of these other troopers. So just as far as what Nick was talking about, the blood, I don't know why he keeps bringing that up. There is no evidence of any missing blood. There's no photo of the ground that shows where there was no blood there. Whatever blood came out of John went into the ground or into his clothing. There's no basis for saying there's any missing blood. I don't even get it.
Go ahead, Nick.
Well, we saw his sweatshirt, and there definitely wasn't 3 liters of blood on his sweatshirt. And even if it did sink into the ground, he's laying in white snow. They found 6 drops of blood in the snow. It would have been covered. So for him to have blood on his shirt, that means at some point he was sitting up for the blood to go down his shirt and down his back. If he was laying down on the ground, yeah, maybe all the blood would have went into the ground. How did it get on his jacket? How did it get all over him? He had to have been sitting up at some point for that blood to get all over his shirt. And not to mention the fact that if you actually look at this blood, it looks faded and I don't want to say washed, but that blood would have been soaked into his shirt. This picture was taken how long after it was turned in? We know Michael Proctor had this shirt for 3 weeks before he turned it into evidence. So there would have been a lot more blood on his shirt and his clothes for it to be anything compared to her hitting him by a car.
I don't know why you would think the police want to collect all of the blood at the scene. They obviously collected a few drops on the top of the snow because they thought it might have some other forensic use. But there's not something normal that would, at a hit and run, you're just going to gather all of the blood. So,
all right, folks.
Bleeding from the back of the head. Yeah.
Let's do this. We took care of the scene so far. When we come back, we'll take a look at the alleged murder weapon. Karen Reed's SUV, the clearest pictures yet of the back of that car. We'll talk about what they say they found.
There's damage here on the bumper, and there was also damage to the rear door. I think it may be blocked by the caution tape right here. It's on the rear door right underneath the window.
As far as that area that you were talking about where you recovered, which you termed initially in the garage as an apparent human hair, do you see the location of that within this photograph?
Is it possible to zoom in a little bit on the area right next to the rear chair light?
Come in if you could.
To the best of my recollection, it was in this area.
That's the alleged murder weapon. Her car is the alleged murder weapon in this case. I want you to take a listen to the testimony because of two pieces of evidence found. You've got the broken tail light, obviously, right? We've got that. We understand that. We talked about the pieces. But how about what's found on that car? You've got pieces of the glass found on the rear bumper, and you've got a hair. Take a listen.
There's a sticker here, and I know you can't see it. I don't know if you can zoom in. There's a letter on the sticker, I believe it's A, that denotes that there's something there that I was going to collect. And right next to that sticker here is the apparent hair that I noticed.
Ms. Hartnett, in this photograph, what, if anything, is depicted that you denoted something to sort of reflect or further examine at a later?
There's pieces of apparent glass here on the bumper.
How important, how compelling. Let's bring back in our insiders, Nick Rocco, Peter Ellikin, Kevin Lenahan. Peter, was the hair placed on there as well? Is that part of what these police or whoever did? Is that what the jury is to believe if you're going to buy the defense case here?
Well, we haven't even connected that hair to O'Keefe at all. They said it's a hair and they haven't done the DNA on it. So it is a piece of hair there. But I'm wondering if the jury's going to have problems with that, though. That the car went to Dighton, Massachusetts in a blizzard, was there for a while, came back. So that's a 60-mile round trip. And can we believe that the hair is just there and it's the person who testified said it wasn't secured in any way. So would a hair make a 60-mile trip in a blizzard not attached in any way? But then when we get to the hair, it was determined that it was a human hair. How do we know that's O'Keefe's? If it was O'Keefe's, I mean, they've been dating and had that car for, several years, and I wouldn't be surprised if some hair of his wasn't somewhere in the car. But again, without saying that it was O'Keefe's hair, what value does that have whatsoever?
Kevin, what are your thoughts about this evidence, the cocktail glass, the hair?
Well, we know from the last pretrial hearing that the DNA on the hair is going to match to John. As far as the journey, the only challenging part of the journey that hair had to survive was the initial ride home from Karen to John's garage, because at that time, it was already a car that was a little bit slick with ice and moisture. But then after that, later on, it's covered. By 8:30, it's pretty much covered in snow, and then it's completely covered in snow by the time it's towed. So then the snow melts inside the garage. But I just think one more thing on the hair. If you zoom in and try to, with every piece of evidence, look at all the different possible explanations. If you want to go with the idea of it being planted, would anybody plant a hair on a horizontal surface like that? No, they'd plant it on the bumper. Like, so for instance, if you were planting those cocktail glass pieces, you might plant it next to that, but you wouldn't plant it in that spot.
All right, Nick, what are your thoughts here? You've got a hair, you've got pieces of a cocktail glass. John O'Keefe's got a cocktail glass in his hand. The jury has seen that glass was broken.
Right, so you take the trip from 34 Fairview to John's house. The snow melts inside the garage. She backs out of the driveway. She hits John's car. She goes to Jen McCabe's house. Then she drives back to John O'Keefe's house. Then the vehicle actually drives to Dighton, gets on a tow truck, and then gets towed back to Canton PD. So there is absolutely no way that small of a piece of hair not being latched onto anything is going to stay on that vehicle, especially as the snow melts, it turns to water, and water, spray your car with a hose. What happens? All the dirt and debris comes right off of it. That hair was not going to stay there. And as far as the glass being just sitting on top of the bumper, put your phone there, put anything on your bumper and drive down the road, it's coming right off. There's no way any of this
how does
stuff.
the hair get there? How does the hair get there for this photograph
The
by
taillight got there
Maureen
12 hours
Hartnett?
later.
What's that?
The same way that the taillight got there 12 hours later. Don't forget that the vehicle arrived at Canton Police Department at 5:08. 42 minutes is missing from the Canton Police Department garage. Come on. There's somebody, we know Brian Higgins was in there. We know Chief Berkowitz was in there. And one other specific thing about the broken cocktail glass is Michael Proctor and Chief Berkowitz after this supposed rainstorm, they were driving past 34 Fairview Road and they found more taillight. How come they never found more pieces of glass on the lawn? Where's the rest of the cocktail glass? Where is the rest of it? We only have the base of it, and now you have 2 pieces on the bumper. Where is the rest of the glass? They happen to find all the pieces of taillight, but not the rest of the cocktail glass.
So Peter, do you think that a jury would buy that the hair is planted? Like, when did they grab the piece of hair? Who put it there? Is Maureen Hartnett, the forensic scientist from the Massachusetts State Police, part of the conspiracy?
I don't know that they're even saying that the hair was planted there in particular. It's just, is that hair from, earlier in the day, and we saw the whole trajectory for over the next 12 hours and the 60-mile round trip and all that. Is the jury gonna be at least scratching their heads and saying, geez, I don't know what happened here. This certainly was not, as I said, a slam dunk day for the prosecution where they really nailed anything down. If anything, they're still up in the air then, and it's just, I don't know that a jury can say, yeah, I was convinced today. That was obviously, that hair traveled, and the pieces of glass were on the back of the bumper, and they traveled to a blizzard for 60 miles. I think the jury is, I don't think anything was conclusive today, and I don't think that the jury is, I think the jury is probably as confused. And as we know, if the jury walks away at the end of the day and says, geez, I don't really know either way, then that favors the defense.
Peter Ellikin, Nick Rocco, Kevin Lenahan, great to have you on the program tonight. We'll do it again tomorrow.